Good evening, my book talk followers. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you a snippet from my book, The Legend of Estrella, by Bren McVeigh. We are going to be reading the prologue to get you a little taste, a little snippet of what my book is about. Prologue. The Problem with Magic. Queen Althea, awaking in the middle of the night to the sound of Estrella gasping for breath, jumped out of bed and rushed to the bassinet. The queen lifted up her child, who was weak and burning up with a racing pulse. Holding her baby close, Althea took her to the bed. Once there, she shook Indra awake. Indra, wake up! What is it, my queen? Indra asked groggily, sitting up. It's Estrella. She can't breathe, and she's burning up. I don't know what's wrong with her. I have to do something, please, the queen was sobbing. I will summon the staff and a physician. I will do whatever I can. We will get her help. Don't worry, my love. Indra swung the bedchamber door open, grabbed the guard by the collar, and ordered him, Go wake the staff. My daughter is sick. We need the physician. Althea paced the floor with the infant in her arms, rocking her back and forth in an effort to calm her. The first to rush in were the nursemaids, who finally coaxed the queen into handing over the baby so they could check her nappy. Upon discovering that the child had diarrhea, they changed her, but she was still fussy. On top of that, she was wheezing. The rest of the staff worked to comfort the king and queen, saying things such as, Your Majesty, you must sit down and relax. She is going to be okay. You won't make her any better by being in such a state. And, Your Highness, you must sit down. The physician is on his way. But you have to calm down first. And sit. Please, sire. Then the kitchen staff came in with cups of tea and something light for the royal pair to eat. Meanwhile, the nursemaids tried to get Estrella to feed, but she wouldn't latch onto a breast. They thought it was their milk that the baby didn't want, so they handed her to the queen to see if her mother's milk would make her eat. But she still refused to eat, which broke Althea's heart. When the physician finally arrived, Estrella was in a worse condition. He took her from the nursemaids, felt her head, pricked her finger to test her blood, and then wrapped the finger. He looked in her nose and listened to her chest. Then he said, I am sorry, Your Majesties. She seems to be phlegmatic. That is, she has fluid in her lungs, which is making her sick. She has a low fever, which will get hotter over time, as well as chills. She has breathing problems from the fluid. She's weak and in a lot of pain. I don't know what else to do for her. Once the physician was excused and had left the castle, Althea broke down in sobs, clutching the limp and weak infant to her chest. Indra's heart sank. How could this be happening to his baby girl? Estrella only got worse. She coughed and wheezed the whole night. Indra sat by the fireplace, his face in his hands. Althea tried everything she could to calm Estrella, but nothing was helping. Please, my child, you have to breathe for Maya. Come on, take big, slow breaths. Please, princess, she begged, but Estrella's breathing didn't slow down. It only got faster. Indra, will you please hold her? You haven't even touched her since the physician left. Please, she needs her father too. Althea held the baby out to him. The physician can't help her. How can I? At least put her back to her bed for me. Maybe the love of her father will ease her enough to sleep, Althea said, trying to persuade him. Indra hesitantly took the small, weak baby in his arms and hummed to her as he rocked her. Her coughing slowed down, but she was still wheezing. He put her back in the bassinet and joined Althea, who was now in bed. They tried to fall asleep, but Estrella's wheezing kept them awake. At one point, Althea curled up and cried. The next day, Estrella was even worse. Her breathing was shallow, her fever was hotter, and her coughing wouldn't stop. Indra had the staff come in and move the baby and her things into the nursery. Althea came to the door in time to see them take Estrella and the bassinet out of the room. What are you doing? You can't take her away. She needs me. She needs Princess Indra, do something. Thea, I told them to. She needs isolation. They can care for her, and we can sleep. We need our health. We can't afford to get sick, Indra replied, trying to calm his wife. How could you? She needs us, the love of her parents, even if we get sick, she sobbed and followed after the nursemaids. It wasn't that Indra didn't care about his child. In fact, he cared so much that he sent out messengers to all the towns, searching for a magic cure. Magic had to have the answer. If anything could heal his child, it had to be magic. The first to arrive with the magic cure was a shaman from the next town over, an old man with long gray hair who wore a long brown robe. Your Highness, thank you graciously for your invitation, he bowed. When do I get my reward as you promised? You get the reward if you succeed in curing my daughter, Indra said coolly. As you wish, sire. Where's the child? I will call for her nurses, Indra replied. Then he sent a servant to tell the nurse to bring Estrella. The nurse came into the room with Estrella loosely wrapped in a thin blanket. The baby was shaking and coughing, and her wheezing was now wet and raspy. The airways in her nose were apparently blocked. She was working harder to breathe. What seems to be the problem with the child? Asked the old man. She's phlegmatic, replied the nurse. Can you help her? Asked Indra. I will do my best, my lord, he replied. Then he started mixing herbs and making a paste. When he finished, he carefully took the baby and started chanting words and rocking her around simultaneously. He rubbed paste on her head and chest, but all that did was give her a rash. Indra was upset. This man was clearly a fraud. The king's suspicions was confirmed when he ordered the guards to escort the charlatan out of the castle, and the shaman had the audacity to ask again about the reward. The nurse took Estrella back to the nursery. As they passed by Indra, he caught a look at his tiny, frail daughter in so much pain. It strengthened his resolve to find her a cure. The next day, and the days following, the same sort of things occurred. Some charlatan claiming to have a miracle cure for the princess arrived, only to fail and demand the reward. After the shaman, it was the magician, then the druid priest, then the psychic, and then the illusionist. All frauds hoping to profit from the king's desperation for a cure. By the end of the week, Estrella had gotten a lot worse. She wasn't eating and was vomiting. She was gauntly thin from starvation. If she did eat, she just vomited back up. Her cough was worse, raspy, and constant. Her fever was extremely high, but her body was taken by chills, so those attending to her kept her loosely wrapped in hopes of bringing down the fever, but stopping the chills. And at this point, the child's little lips and fingernails had turned blue because oxygen was not getting to them. At midday on Friday, a wise old gypsy medicine woman arrived at the castle. When Indra heard of her arrival, his hopes rose, as this woman had a reputation for her miracles and cures, which reportedly could cure anything you had. Hello, my name is Madame Arosa. Where is the child? She asked, bowing in front of Indra. She's in the nursery. Shall I send for the nurse to bring her? He asked. Yes, that will be fine. Indra called for the nurse to bring Estrella out. Within moments, the nurse appeared, holding the tiny baby. Upon seeing the baby, Madame Arosa said, Let me hold her, sire. I can help her. Indra nodded, and the nurse handed Estrella to the gypsy. Madame Arosa held the baby close in one arm and rocked her. Using the other arm to pull out creams, she rubbed on Estrella's chest, and she pulled out an amulet.